Is it that new Zoom blur your background feature I heard about? Nice. I don't know if mine has that.
It should.
Sometimes the Linux client is behind a little bit. Don't see it.
Yeah, mine didn't show up for some time, but it was there today. Don't know what changed. But you know, I kind of like your background as is, Gareth.
You can see all my stuff.
I like it.
Not here.
Oh yeah, the penguin.
I'll do this. Let's go off screen.
I like the penguin. Penguin is good. Welcome. We'll let people get on to the meeting and then we'll get started. I hope everyone's having a wonderful Thursday, wherever you are in the world.
I feel pretty positive.
Good. Glad to hear it. Give people some time and we'll get started. We'll enjoy Gareth's background with his penguin and his Charlie Chaplin. And I don't know, you have lots of cool stuff back there. I like it.
It's a potpourri of stuff.
Stuff. I should probably turn off my notifications. It's true. We'll get started momentarily. Give people just a minute to get on. We'll get started. Welcome to the open hour. Okay, can you see my screen? Cool.
Yep.
Let's go ahead and get started. Welcome everyone to the open hour, the community open hour for the SALT project. My name is Sage Robbins. I am the SALT program manager. Whatever that title means. I guess it means that I have a title. So that's good. We have just a couple of things to talk about today. Maybe I can get the slides to work. Release updates, and then we're going to talk about pre-commit and Pi2 support in Black, and then we'll open it up to question and answers. I will put in links to SEPs, anything that we have about question and answers, to the working groups page and to upcoming events. And we do have just some general updates. Today, we will be doing the reschedule of the virtual meetup with Randy Thompson from GoDaddy, talking about the build pipeline for Tiamat. Please join us if you can. We will record that and make sure that that's available to people on YouTube as well. That should be a really great virtual meetup. Randy's awesome. Randy, hey, Randy.
Yo.
And then tomorrow, Pedro will be giving an overview of salt extensions, which is some stuff that's coming. And this will be really exciting. This is, I think lots of people are talking about this and want this, and this will be sort of a general overview, and we can answer some questions. And then from there, we'll start building out some documentation, and we'll go from there. So if you have questions regarding that or want to know more about that, please join us tomorrow, and please join us later today with Randy. So we're still on for the aluminum release next Wednesday, March 31st. Darcy packages are available. If you want to test those out and put some issues in, please do. We have fixed a few things and we will go live on Wednesday. And then I do have this milestone that's been the milestone timeline, although we have introduced a temporary freeze branch. So code freeze is a little less intrusive, but still keeping this here for now. And then we plan for a point release, although we don't necessarily need to have one. We leave this to the discretion, and I leave this in here in case we do have a point release. We are trying to get to the point where we don't have minor releases, that our major release would be enough, although that seems sort of like a unicorn at this point. So I still plan for it, just to keep people on the up and up. Of course, that date is sometimes a little bit flexible, and we don't always know exactly when that date is, but we're guessing that it'll probably be about 4 weeks out. So I put it in here as such, and we'll continue to communicate about that and as that moves forward. So just to keep you guys apprised of that. Any questions? Oh, and I don't have a slide in here for it, but we're going to talk about what I had up here, which is pre-commit and Pi2 support and Black. And we have an issue out there. In fact, I could probably even bring it up. Derek, do you have it handy? That's the issue that you wrote. Thank you.
Yep.
So in the chat, we realize that there are some issues here and we want to fix this. This is actually going to be fairly intrusive, and so we want to communicate it. So this ticket has been written. I know some of you have even commented, and thank you for that. We would like to do some corrections here, and we believe that the best time to do this is at the beginning of a release cycle. And there will be a lot of work here. This will change quite a few things across the PRs that are currently written and not merged yet. And we would like to do these at the beginning of a release cycle, which is coming up, open a PR with many of these changes, and communicate out as we're doing with this ticket. We're doing it here. We will also write a blog post that PRs will need to be rebased as we make these changes. And we realize that's intrusive to people, but we believe that the value that we get from that is much more than leaving it as is. But of course, we're open to listening to feedback from that as well. Derek, do you want to go over some of the pre-commit stuff here and what we're seeing today, or add anything?
Yeah, it's probably it'll be familiar to most contributors, is that when you're working on a PR that is on a file that has yet to go through the latest pre-commit updates over time around Pi2 support being dropped, some like sorting around imports, I think removing comments, and well, you'll see things like dropping 6 imports, changing how array strings. There's like a several things that are all kind of applied against a new PR to a file that is yet to have what's in pre-commit currently applied against it. And with that kind of done, it's sort of anyone who's seen it, you'll see that it just means that your change gets bundled in with a variety of other stuff that comes in with pre-commit, unless you're hitting a file that hasn't that's already been cleaned up by pre-commit with the latest changes. And then the idea too is that we also talked about how black was applied previously to the code base, but black has since then had some new version changes done that would mean making some different formatting changes too, on top of dropping that Pi2 support. But yeah, it's the kind of thing that people normally are seeing, and what has kind of caused confusion. And as seen, I put the issue link in the chat, but it's a lot. Well, I see Pedro's on the call. Pedro might be able to better speak to it too, but it would be a very large change, especially with when bundling in the black upgrade, that would be repo wide and would result in a variety of PRs that would need to be rebased and may or may not have merge conflicts in them because of it. But the goal ultimately is to make it so that when it also will make a cleaner Git history. So when someone's kind of going, hey, there's some weird changes that happened here, or maybe something I don't really quite understand, it may look like someone has actually done a change, but really it was an automated pre-commit change bundled in with that person's change. And that person may have just done something like change a single line in the doc string, but that now it looks like they've changed, or let's say I've been updating URLs, for example, there are some broken URLs, and I might update a URL in a Py file that then changes the entire Python file. And so it kind of maybe makes it look like I know more about that particular module than I actually do. And it makes it confusing to new contributors, but yeah.
Just one question on that. Do you know roughly, like if you actually run black, the new version of black against the code base, and do you know roughly how many lines that changes?
That's a good question.
Sorry to budge in. I think the reasoning behind the new version of black is not that we have to upgrade to a new version of black. More like, since we will have to make these drastic changes across the whole repo, let's also update the version of black so that this intrusive change in the repo is done only once. So the changes for the new version of black become less important than the changes of Pi2. Basically, the idea is to piggyback the new black on the Pi2 changes that are going in it.
And I don't really see a way around that other than forcing a rebase of several PRs. I just don't see one.
Yeah, and the black one was really just for my own curiosity, because I was the one who went through all the work on the other one, and I do know there were a couple of pesky things that like black was totally fine with, but our lint was not happy with, so I had to go in and manually fix a lot of that. So I was just curious on that, but I do very much agree that if we're going to upgrade automatic formatting, then we should go ahead and just do everything that we can in one fell swoop.
Should probably update the linter too, like you mentioned then.
Yeah, if we're gonna do anything with lint as well.
Yep.
Yeah, I can, Wayne, if you want to add that to this ticket, that'd be great. Or just as a comment, I think that would be good. Just so I have it in one place. We do have from James here. It is safer to continue as we are doing automatic changes incrementally. I tend to agree with that as well on the whole, but I think that there is a point where we have to look at what we're doing incrementally and is it hurting us? And I think that that may be where we are today. Especially given some of the discussion in this tickets and around some discussion that teams had as well.
Yeah. I know that personally, as I've reviewed PRs, there have been a number of times, I can think of probably a dozen or so, that reviewing the PR would have been trivial because it was a docs change and taken 2 seconds. Oh yeah, you fix a typo in the docs, great, done. But instead, I didn't even know it was just a docs change because there were 700 lines of change happened with the Pi2, dropping the Pi2 support. So it was like, what in the world is you? Oh, right, Pi2 support, I see. And so then I had to kind of unwind and divorce the 2 changes and figure out exactly what was going on there. So, and that's just me. I know there are a number of other people who probably shared that experience.
Well, I wonder if when they open a PR, it would be good instructions for now to basically just say, hey, run the pre-commit steps and commit that, then commit your change.
Yeah, and
that way it would be easier to unwind that for you.
I know I've done that personally. I don't know if we have that officially in the documentation, but certainly before we do this,
Might be a good stopgap.
Yeah, because that definitely does help, because you can actually say, okay, pre-commit run against these files that I haven't touched yet, that I'm going to touch. And then it will drop the Pi2 support. You can commit the Pi2 support commit and then fix everything else. And then, yeah, so that does work a little bit better, but
might be worth mentioning that in the docs or somewhere for now, at least.
This gets funky with our current with the way that our docs get published. This gets funky because we currently version our contributing guide. Well, we currently version all of our docs pinned to the SALT version. And so right now, for example, you want to look at what's in the master branch to go, hey, here's the latest contributing guide stuff. And people, rightly so, usually go to the latest instead, which doesn't actually reflect what's in master. It reflects what docs were generated at the time that a certain version of SALT was released, and so it's wrong information. And then if we try to even make a minor docs change like this to process, we've now like potentially caused even more problems, especially once we fix the pre-commit stuff. It's really, really messy, and we're trying to resolve this with like the SALT user guide stuff and SALT install guide stuff.
Randy's idea actually just made me think about another great idea. We should just add to our contributing guide, like at the top, hey, go look at the master branch docs instead of the latest when you're contributing, because you know, then at least by the next release we'll have that problem fixed, because people can at least be able to see that. Yeah.
Is there any way this might not be possible, but is there any way with pre-commit to get it to, rather than running black that then gets bundled in with the commit you're trying to make, get it to sort of add a rebase and then do so that, yeah, and basically is there a way to automate it doing the black changes as a separate commit as part of the process?
Yeah, so the black changes, we've already blackened the code base so that anything new wouldn't be that big an issue. But
it's the Pi2 changes.
Yeah, right.
Okay, yeah.
But I guess Pedro would probably be the best one to speak to that. But that's actually a thought that I had. I don't like you. I don't know if it's possible or trivial, I guess, to have that hook. Basically, what it would need to do is stash your changes, drop the
well, yeah, but I think pre-commit also already does stash some changes. I've definitely seen it say something about it stashing changes. So, yeah.
Yeah. So basically, the process it would have to do is stash your changes, run drop pi2 against those files, commit that with a, you know, whatever user that we used before as the code author, and then apply your changes and then rerun itself. But if it's trivial to do that, that would also be another approach we could take. And while it wouldn't solve the problem of the commits being, you know, kind of cluttered with those, it would at least
separate those out.
Separate the blame. So at least it's a little bit less convoluted.
I don't know that that'll be trivial though.
Yeah, that was my my thought, really, was comparing that against just running all of the changes against the whole code base. And yeah, it's going to be a big nasty thing, but I think with this one it would be much less. Of course, I don't know, it might be worth writing a script to actually pull down all the PRs and test to see which ones can rebase cleanly, if they all can, or if there are a lot of merge conflicts. But my gut impression tells me that if one does do does run pre-commit against their PR and then tries to rebase, then they shouldn't have a lot of merge conflicts. But you know, I do know that Git sometimes doesn't line up with my expectations. So
I think all of the changes we would want to do, we could do them in separate PRs and probably should, but we still would like to do them at the beginning of a release cycle, and it would still require that there are PRs that are going to be out there that will get sort of those changes all at once. And that's kind of how that was probably going to go. So we're trying to just communicate that out at the moment and take some feedback about how that should work or could work, and take that into account. The value that I think that we're going to gain from this and some of the risks that it's going to drop for us outweigh alternatives. So it's kind of one of those, like, gotta eat your vegetables, you know. Don't always like to. I personally like vegetables, but you know, hey, I don't like them all. There's a few that I find gross. Go ahead, Gary.
No, the other thing I was going to say is hopefully, I know it certainly causes some friction for contributors, and hopefully this will, if anyone has been reluctant, I know there's been a lot of pushback about when changes are made, but hopefully once the big change is made, it should reduce some contributor friction, maybe help attract some additional contributors as well.
Absolutely. And although our backlog of PRs is large, we still think that that is valuable in the long run, to get to that end goal of making contributions easier. Any other questions about that? Comments? The next thing I have on my list is to just open it up to Q&A. Are there any questions, comments, concerns, SEPs people want to go over? I do not have ready today to go over everything from planning that we've done, but I should next week. I do not have everything done from the CVE report that I wanted to have out today, although I'm very close. and should have that out as well. We do have a lot of events coming up and some more events that we're planning for. And so those should be seen on the website as well as in the sort of terrible calendar. And there are more things coming with calendars and updates there as well. And we're looking to change that. But when I change that, I want to change it once instead of twice. So I'm looking at that fairly carefully and will make announcements as that decision gets made in the future. No decision has been made just yet. So we would want to test something out before we make a decision. Make sure that it's actually working for a large majority of people. Since I don't know that the calendar that we have today is, and that it's useful. So I want to make that better.
One thing that I will recommend making sure works is daylight saving time, because for some reason the Tuesday test clinic time changed just fine, but the Thursday one did not. So I had to go and change that, and that was
Interesting. So. Yes, good feedback. Thank you. and changes as they happen, right? Because daylight savings for the US happens at a different time than it does for Europe and other places around the world, and having that update automatically is key. The calendar that we have today doesn't seem to deal with time very well, and I know time zones and daylight savings is hard. It's a hard one. It's tough.
I had a question. Will the link to the upcoming Tiamat session be posted in the Slack channel?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Absolutely.
I assume somebody will be recording it.
Me. And I'll make sure that that's there. I think that I have it linked out to something else. Can you guys still see this? Stop sharing. I think I have to stop sharing and reshare. Of course, I can't see with all the Zoom stuff in my way. That's fun. So if you click on this, it'll take you to here, and there's a Zoom link here that will open up and start the Zoom for you.
Roger that. Thank you, Sage.
You're welcome. I'll make sure that that's in Slack though as well, so people have it.
Yeah, and that talks really just around how we build salt via Tiamat and how it's utilized throughout our environment for two of our particular projects, the Patchman project and the core provisioning platform project.
It's probably also worth mentioning here about the overview of the SALT extensions session tomorrow.
Yes.
At I think it's at 10 a.m. Mountain.
Yeah, and I don't even think I have it in here yet because I was actually going to do it for next Friday, and then I put it on for this Friday sort of absent-mindedly, and so we're going to do it because it's going to be tomorrow. It's something that we want to do. And I'll put something up like this as well and do another banner today so that people can get to it easily and put that into Slack so that it's there. And I can even put most of that in the notes today so that it goes out with the notes for today.
Has there been any updates on I know you guys have your hands full. Has there been any updates on the planning for the triage jam?
Yes, I just need to pick a date and do it. So I am looking at some dates this week and should have a date by next week for sure, maybe even before then, maybe on like Monday, so that we can communicate that out and start doing a triage jam.
Awesome.
Over triage, yeah. And thank you for the people that we've already invited to the GitHub org and to have that permission in place and to start even without any instruction. Thank you all for your help. It's been absolutely fantastic. And looking forward to also doing just more code jams in general. So the ports to master still have PRs that are open and tests to be written. Just the code base in general, as we look at doing this, dropping the Pi2 support and pre-commit changes in Black, pylons. There will be other things to do. And I think that we could probably just do a general code jam and give it a specific, like we're going to do tests, or we're going to do port to master tests, or we're going to, fix these PRs, and even just give a handful and do it with the people that we have that join, and go that route. And I will put those on the calendar, and you should see those coming in the next 3 to 4 business days. We should have those on the calendar and communicate those out, because I think that those are valuable, and it's where we get a lot of work done in a small amount of time and see a lot of value. So definitely want to continue.
Where are we with Bandit, by the way?
Well, we have it. I think that we need to iterate on its use.
I guess
Yeah.
Pedro could probably speak more towards that. I think he's the one heading that up.
He initially put it into the code base, but I think it's just the team in general now.
Okay.
I know we were going to talk about some other things that you've used it for, and how you've used it, and love to hear about that as well. And excuse me, what we can do to optimize that.
Okay. Yeah, I mean,
What
I
we
get what
have
you guys
in-
in time.
Yeah.
What we have in place right now is all of the critical issues that Bandit flagged are fixed, and we are enforcing that. With regards to teaching Bandit about our custom uses of popen and the likes, that's still to be done. And I think basically that's it. We need to, because we have some custom classes to spawn processes which Bandit is not looking at. And that would be a next stage in what's currently missing right now.
Okay.
But the off the box with the current configuration, or basically most of the default configuration of Bandit, with the exception of Jinja, because we are not using the features that Bandit complains. So that check is disabled. All the critical issues have been addressed and fixed and are being enforced right now.
Excellent.
Bandit's not being run in pre-commit right now, right? It's just, you guys are just running it against the repo?
No, it is.
Oh,
It is
okay.
running. It is running locally when you commit, if you have pre-commit installed, of course. And it runs also on pull requests and on the master branch.
Wonderful.
Could I ask a question about the Bugfix release?
Sure.
Yeah, just on the sort of communication of that, and around specifically around the restart check issue. Essentially, in the sort of change log, there's just a one sentence. This change hardens the fix for CVE 2020 28243. I might have missed it, but has there been any more detail about actually, in what way it hardens it, or how critical it is to upgrade, or what? Because essentially that's sort of quite a, if I read that, I don't know whether or not, it's whether or not it's something where I absolutely need to go and install it, whether it's, whether or not it's, essentially how critical that fix is.
Oh, sure. I think it may have been kind of buried in Slack. We did have somebody ask about that as the announcement went out, that there was the Bugfix release of Salt, and trying to work out the priorities. And the original CV release made it so that the CV, we're talking about 2020, 28.24.3, is no longer exploitable. There was still a case where someone could crash the restart job, and the bug fix mitigates that case. So it's not really exploitable, but we wanted to make sure that we were covering everything there, if that makes sense. So I don't think that it's as critical, but we did want to make sure we were going and
Cool.
and addressing everything, if that makes sense.
that absolutely makes sense. It would be, in future it might be useful in the change log to have a bit more clarity about that, or even in the announcement on saltbudget.io, just to be sort of clear that it's
Absolutely.
That sort of detail that you gave there.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Cool.
I'll make a note of that.
Thanks.
Yeah. Yeah, other questions? Yeah, comments, ideas, jokes. No jokes. I don't have any today.
Oh, I had one suggestion, question, thought. In regards to changing things over from master to main,
Mhm.
I know that there's work that needs to be done to actually like get all of the tests and everything else running against a different branch versus master. Is there anything keeping us from just creating the main branch and then either automating something to make sure that stays up to date with stuff in master, so that at least we can start using it and referring to the main branch instead of referring to master? Because then, even though we're not done with it yet, that way we can still, like, in the community, we can be like, oh yeah, clone main or pull from main, rather than, oh yeah, pull from master, and we can just kind of get a bit of a jump on that while we're waiting for the cycles to convert Jenkins and whatnot to use master.
Could this also result in a similar problem we had with the port to master and now port to main?
Well, we're not creating a new
Problem.
branch, we're renaming,
Yeah.
right?
So
It's a little different.
Okay.
So basically, main and master would point to the exact same commits always. Yeah.
Okay, wanted to clarify. Thank you.
Yeah. No, I was not suggesting that we start like another branch of development. Just simply, use that name as we're pulling things down, because then it's available, and it's at least a small step in the right direction.
So like an alias or something?
Yeah, basically.
We haven't talked a lot about that. It's a good point though, and it's probably something that we need to discuss further. I think that you touch on the main thing there, Wayne. It's like we need to have some time to do this and some bandwidth to do this and pick a date and do it. And even picking a date seems to sometimes be difficult. So I think we get sort of blocked on that because we're just not picking a date, and we probably just need to move forward. And
Maybe
then
pick an event, like as soon as the freeze is lifted, then we're doing it.
maybe we're doing a lot of changes with pre-commit and Pi2 support and Black, and now linters. There's a lot of things there. So
And
is
that
now the right time?
yeah.
Is ever there a good time? Maybe not.
On that, and SEP 28 is just that one related to changing names of things is like a gigantic epic itself, with the main branch renaming being one piece of that huge thing, and that which would be a very long, ongoing, slowly done thing. I think, I guess.
Yes, especially if we were changing, like for example, master and minion to the word that VMware suggests, which is controller and minion. That's a really large change that would be done very slowly over time and heavily communicated. And
Yeah, that's a long process there.
Very, yeah.
very long. And I don't know that that's preventing us from doing it. I think what we're actually stuck on is that none of us on the core team like that word. We're not really sold on the word controller. So we kind of want to push back, and we have the ability to do that. That is completely an option. And I think that that's worthy. And I'd love to hear from the community as well. We have had in the past people tell us that we didn't use master and slave, and that was a lot better. And we've appreciated that. We are being asked to change the master branch name and then master and minion like the salt master. And so looking forward in the future to do that and how and plan that out carefully. Yes. And, you know, tongue in cheek, go with overlord. There's some other
There you
names
go.
too that we like too.
Leader and subordinate. There you go.
Right. You know, we've had a lot of suggestions, and one of the reasons that I don't like controller is that I believe that it's going to be misspelled. It's long. It's got 2 L's in it. People are going to want to truncate that. It doesn't go well with some of the ways that we use, you know, a noun instead of something that ends in an ER. So there's some problems there. They've also asked us to, instead of using the word execute, to use run. And, you know, we're going to do a, you know, a run module on the runner that runs. And there's some problems with that word that I don't know that's for us. And for other projects, right? For other projects, they have made other considerations for it because it doesn't fit with their vocabulary. And so I think that we can make a case for that if we can come to a rough consensus on some words that do fit and are still inclusive. I really liked GRU or guru. Sure, legal won't have problems with that. Yep. But I'd love to hear more suggestions. We've heard a lot, but we haven't necessarily all agreed on one. So suggestions are of course welcome.
Yeah, because wouldn't like such a, even that's for one, that change would break everyone's states that refer, it would just break any tooling automation anyone's made anywhere around that just refer. It's good. Yeah, it will definitely be really messy, whatever.
That would be a nightmare scenario.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's gonna be really not good.
Can't we just call the master salty?
We should just use another term that we have already, and that way
Oh,
we're
we like
increasing that way we're just increasing the confusion.
Can't
use
tell.
salt for
Wayne's
master.
comment is dripping with sarcasm. If your sarcasm meter is broken,
Just use salt for master and salted for minions. There you go. The salt and the
Salted.
salted.
Salty McSalt face. Still like that one.
It could work.
Yes.
I don't know.
The ever pun-worthy shaker. We actually all kind of like shaker, and I believe that it's Tom that has axed that one. We all like it.
And how do you run salted systems without salt in your environment?
Right.
A saltless salted.
I don't know. I would have thought that Tom would have liked shaker, given that just is ripe for video opportunities.
I thought so too, and he really axed it. So I was like, oh, okay, well, I guess I don't know Tom well enough to suggest. Even looking. Go ahead.
Tom himself even says that he shouldn't be allowed to name things. So I'm not sure why he gets a vote here.
I actually really liked Gary's suggestion about like the sort of like a store where you can, find everything for the spice rack. We really like that. And then, there's, what was your suggestion, Gareth? To then the shaker is what helps you find it, or
Yeah, the spice rack is where like Gary's thing where like all the extensions are like the equivalent of the salt equivalent of like Chef has their supermarket. I think Ansible has their. I was picking the Ansible one.
I do
So
too.
yeah, then Salt Shaker would be like a tool that you could use to like install and update and manage your extensions.
Yes. And even as we looked at salt extensions and naming that, there's a lot of pushback from legal, and what VMware prefers is to have something that's short and an evocative name. So the name invokes what the project is about or does what the product does. And this is not my talent. I'm not very good at this. So I'm looking to some other people that have this talent. I'm not sure if you're out there. I hope you are, and you'll make a suggestion.
And I still maintain that Salt extension by its name is very evocative about what it is. It's extending salt with something. You can't get any more evocative than salt extension of something that extends salt.
Sure, their argument is that we're reusing the word salt and then extension is long. And I don't think that it's out of reach to use that. But
I'm sorry, how is that a legal concern?
So the naming goes through their legal department. So they just ask questions.
So wait. So we are being recorded, so this potentially will get me in trouble, but we wanted to go with Salt EXT, right? And so they suggested Salt extension, but then said Salt extension was too long.
Oh, I think it's too long. Not legal.
You think it's too long?
I think it's, well, and I think you do too. Wasn't your word? It's a bit verbose.
I mean, I said it's a bit verbose. I said it is more verbose than Salt EXT. It's more,
yes, and I agree,
obvious like what it is, but
yes.
Sorry, this is from the same people who renamed Salt Stack Enterprise vRealize Standard Plus.
Well, that was definitely renamed by a committee, if you can't tell.
Which actually is vRealize Automation Salt Stack Config.
Yep.
Yeah.
I just looked that up last night.
That is a long one. Right, and I definitely don't want to get into something like that, but I don't know. The best I had was Dendrite. That's the best I got, so it's not very good.
Do something, salt add-ons. I don't know.
Yep, I feel the same. Well, we have digressed into names. If there's not anything else, we can go ahead and adjourn and give people back some time in their day. Love to hear from people. Want to get your feedback. Want to know what's on your mind and what you're doing and how you're doing it. And of course, we just want to gather every week and hear from you. So thank you everyone for being here on this Thursday, and we hope that you have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye, everybody.
Bye.